This is Love Your Work. On this show, we help you find your unique signature as a creative entrepreneur. I'm David Cadavy. I've been a solopreneur for more than 10 years. I'm an international award-winning designer. I've written a couple best-selling books, Design for Hackers, and now The Heart to Start. From my closet in Colombia, I have interviewed titans of industry like Steve Case. I've interviewed best-selling authors like Seth Godin and James Altucher. I've interviewed experts on behavioral science, creators from dancers to a chef to a Hollywood set designer. I want to find out how each of them discovered what made them one in a million, and I bring those insights to you so you can find out what makes you one in a million too. If you're new here, welcome. Again, I'm David Cadavy. If you want to join us here on Love Your Work every Thursday, please hit subscribe on your podcast app. And to get my free creative productivity toolkit, sign up at cadavy.net/tools. Adam Conover had really good things going for him. He had just graduated from college and his sketch comedy group was a hit. So many people were watching their videos. This was before YouTube, so they kept on having to find new places to host the videos because there was so much traffic. But then the group broke up. And at first, Adam wasn't worried. Since he had so much success, he figured he could easily build a career in comedy. But he slowly learned that he was wrong. It was really slow going. Today, Adam has his own hit show, Adam Ruins Everything. On Adam Ruins Everything, Adam takes a well-researched and hilarious approach to straightening out popular myths and misconceptions.
You want to know how much revenue your personal data is worth to Facebook? For every user they surveil, they make just $12. No. Your interests, your personality, your relationships, your privacy, those things are priceless. But you gave them all away just to avoid paying $12.
No, that can't be. That's not possible.
Well, there is a bright side. You want to hear about it?
No, shut up. Let me out.
He's gonna pop.
Let me out. I want to get out.
You know, this happens to all my friends.
Adam has ruined Tylenol, purebred dogs, diamond engagement rings, just to name a few things. Adam Ruins Everything starts its third season on TruTV this fall. So, what happened? How did Adam work his way back to success in comedy? In this episode, you're going to learn how did Adam discover that ruining things was his calling? And what mindset did Adam have that helped him bounce back from failure to find success again? And in businesses where personal connections are so important, why is it that Adam tells you to not suck up to successful people? Here is Adam Conover. I'm here with Adam Conover of Adam Ruins Everything. And Adam, what was the first thing that you officially ruined?
Well, our first segment for College Humor that we ever did was about the history behind diamond engagement rings and how that was a marketing campaign by the De Beers Corporation in the 30s that everyone just forgot about. And that's why we have the tradition today.
Okay, so that was the first one. I know I really loved you for that one because I had learned a little bit about that beforehand. And so I learned a lot more in that video. And that was definitely one of those things that I guess whenever I ruined it for somebody, they really didn't appreciate that. Were there a lot of upset people with your first ruining of the diamond engagement ring?
The whole idea of ruining stuff is kind of a feint for comedy. The actual truth is that people really like learning new things, and it's fun to find out that everything you thought is wrong. I heard a couple anecdotal accounts of, a friend or two saying, oh, my sister is apparently really into her engagement ring because she was all defensive about it when I showed her the video. But apart from that, I've never really gotten much flack about that one.
Oh,
to be
okay.
honest, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny to me because when you say people enjoy learning about the thing, I don't know. Because as somebody who sometimes likes to ruin things, I feel like people have a reaction that is it seems like people don't like that too much. I mean,
well, let me say, in real life, when you're just talking to somebody at a bar, right, or at a party, you'll get less good of a reaction. And the reason we wrote my character to always get a negative reaction and to have everyone be annoyed by him is because that's, sort of a comedic heightening of the reaction I would get in real life. Mm-hmm. So we certainly, that's certainly one of the perils of the profession when you're just like going around talking to people in person. But I think because we're doing it with comedy and we're giving people the whole argument all at once, and it's entertaining as well, they push past that initial like sort of gear grinding of like, oh, it doesn't feel that great, to really enjoying learning the information. Learning something that you contradicts your previously held beliefs is definitely uncomfortable at first, right? And it's hard to get over that hump when you're in person with somebody. But once you get over it and you sort of replace their old information with a sort of new story that's even more interesting, people really enjoy that.
And I mean, that makes sense. And it sounds like it makes it a little bit more powerful that way, because people kind of have resistance to having their beliefs challenged. But if you make it entertaining, if you make them laugh, maybe somehow that kind of puts their guard down. Do you think that that's what's going on?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was really influenced by George Carlin, and in his book, Last Words, he has a passage that always really stuck with me, that when people are, he said almost exactly that when people are laughing, their defenses are lowered, and you can plant the seed of a new idea in that moment. And that always really stuck with me as being a goal for something powerful that comedy could do, something I could aspire to. That sort of ethos definitely made its way into Adam Ruins Everything.
So when you were getting into comedy, I mean, you said that quote stuck with you. Were you looking to change opinions? What was it that attracted you to comedy in the first place, apart from all the other things that you might have ended up pursuing?
Well, it's a bunch of things. I wanted to be I wanted to go to grad school for philosophy when I was in college. I really fell in love with philosophy and sort of the world of ideas and that sort of thing. But I couldn't really hack it. I didn't end up applying to any grad schools, and thank God I didn't, because I would have come out, right after the financial crisis with a philosophy PhD. Might not have been that great of a move. The academic job market's very difficult. But one of the other reasons I didn't apply was because my college sketch group started to take off, and it was the early internet. We had a lot of early viral hits, which was like pre-YouTube, so very early, around 2005. But what drew me to comedy was, I don't know, I always loved comedy, and I loved comedy is sort of like an intellectual little backflip is sort of is what every joke felt like to me, or a little puzzle to be solved, or puzzle to be created. And so I sort of knew when I stopped thinking about academia as what I wanted to do and started moving towards comedy, I sort of knew that I'd be able to work with ideas in the same way, that philosophers and comedians are sort of like, ideas and opinions and ways of thinking are really the sort of stuff that you make the work out of in both fields. Then after I was doing comedy for, 8 years or so, when I was doing stand-up in New York. And the thing about comedy is that after a while, at first you're just trying to learn how to make people laugh. And then you learn how to make people laugh, and you can kind of do it pretty reliably. But then the challenge becomes, how do I make people care? How do I make them give a shit about me as a performer when there's so many other people who can make them laugh, right? I'm just one guy, every stand-up comedy show, there's, 5 people on the bill. You're getting up there, each of you is doing 10 minutes. How do you be the one that stands out, and you be the one that people remember? I have always been, so I was trying to figure that out. And I've always been the type of person who collected information, who collected facts. I've read, every issue of the New Yorker for the past 15 years. I'm a podcast listener. I'm just sort of an information sponge in that way. And I would, find myself repeating facts like that to people that I had learned at parties. Never getting the best reaction, but I sort of had a storehouse of this stuff. And I learned the fact about the engagement ring, frankly, years earlier in I think a Slate piece from years prior. I just had the thought of like, oh, what if I do stand up about this? Like, it was what if I try to take the feeling that I had when I learned this, like, oh my God, is that true? That makes me see the world differently. Like that's bizarre, right? What a crazy thing to learn. Like that sort of delicious idea. What if I combined that with comedy and also got that idea across as I was doing comedy, right? And so when I did that, I found that, the audience started paying a lot more attention. They would not just laugh, they would sort of lean forward in their seats and sort of, oh, wow, really? People come up to me afterwards and say, oh, is that true? Or they come to me at a second show and they're like, oh, I looked that up. That is true. That's crazy. Or there was just that reaction to it. And then I had also been thinking, I was working at College Humor at the time, making sketch comedy. And at College Humor, we do, very relatable comedy most of the time, stuff that's based on, annoying things that people do around you and stuff like that. It's like very sort of social commentary kind of stuff. But I also had this feeling of like, man, I think the best content on the internet isn't just funny. It also gives people something else. There's like, it's funny and it is another thing that keeps people coming back. And I just had this idea that like, this would work as a comedy video. So we did it as a video for College Humor and it really blew up. It got, I think 1 million hits in a day, which is very fast for College Humor and, was shared all over the place. And, then at that time we were we had all just moved to Los Angeles. The company frankly made us move to Los Angeles to try to make TV shows. So the folks there at College Humor and me were like, hey, this could be a TV show. And we sort of, made a couple more and pitched it around and TruTV bought it. That's the whole origin story.
So I love this story about taking this thing this interesting fact and integrating it into your stand-up act. And the way that resonated with people so much. Were there times before that where you maybe considered maybe talking about some sort of obscure fact or something during your stand-up and you decided, oh, I'm just the only weirdo that's interested in that and that's not going to interest anybody else?
No, not particularly. I've been, in stand-up, you stop self-censoring very quickly. Because the way you start doing stand-up, for anyone who's listening who wants to do stand-up, it's very easy to start doing stand-up. All you do is you start going to open mics, and you just do as many as you can. I did 5 to 7 a week, and that was on the low end of the people that I knew. I had friends who would do 15, and you just go to open mics. You try to do material, and you try to get a reaction from the audience. The audience is usually other comedians. But despite that, if you can make other comedians laugh who are bored and just waiting for their chance to go up, then your joke is probably pretty good. And so you very quickly run out of any sort of like pre-thought idea that you had of like, oh, here's something I could talk about. And then you just start doing whatever comes to mind. So, I never was like, I would never be like, oh, what if I do this? No one's like that. You go up and you see if no one likes that. Or not, because the main thing about the beautiful thing about stand-up, I think, is that it teaches you that you don't actually know that much as a performer and as a writer, because you can think something is funny, right? But if the audience doesn't laugh, it's not funny. And there have been so many times that I have said things that I didn't think or know was going to be funny, and the audience gave me a response that let me know, oh, this is funny. Why is this funny? Let me figure this out, right? So the audience works for you as a test bed, as a sounding board. They're the arbiter, not you, which is wonderful when you're getting started out doing creative work and you're like, well, how do I know if I'm doing any good? If you're like writing essays or whatever and then posting them on Medium, how do you know if they're any good? Well, I guess that's a bad example because on Medium they've got that dumb clap icon, but like if you're a lot of times you're like, well, how do I know if I'm on the right path here? In comedy, if you're getting laughs, you're on the right path. And you can listen to laugh to find out like, oh wait, maybe this is something I should explore. I did this thing on stage. It got a laugh. Why did it get a laugh? I wasn't even trying to be funny there. What about me was funny in that moment? Why did people enjoy that? Yeah.
I think Medium actually is a pretty good example. They've got the clap icon, which I always read as sarcastic for some reason, but also they have highlights and that works really well. But it sounds to me like in comedy, as in many things, it's a lot about shipping, about getting some work out there that can be reacted to, so then you can take that feedback and do something with it. Now, the challenge there is actually doing that, getting up on stage 5 to 7 times a week like you were. Was that difficult for you to create that level of output?
It was a shift in my life when I started doing that. Certainly, because I was working freelance and then later at College Humor, which was a day job. So I had to orient my life around it. Like I had to get used to leaving work. I would go do an open mic afterwards. Which in New York City is not that bad. You just get on a train, stay in Manhattan for a little bit. Or you bounce from 2 or 3. And then before you go home. So there was that sort of, okay, I've got to change my habits in order to do this. Right. But that's not any larger than, say when someone decides to start exercising, right. Where you're like, oh, now I'm the type of person, I get up early, or after work, I go exercise, and like, I'm going to shift my life around that. It's that sort of change, as far as go ahead.
I was going to say, what were you telling yourself to make it that much of a priority in your life to make those changes?
Well, my sketch group that I was in had, like I said, we had some early success on the internet, and then the group broke up. And my sort of like what had seemed at the time like a sort of promising comedy career kind of fizzled. Because this group was the thing that had gotten us a manager, and we gotten a deal to make web videos for a couple of years, and et cetera. We had done, big comedy festivals. We had the Aspen Comedy Arts Festival, which was a really big festival at the time, stuff like that. And then after the group broke up, I was like, oh, well, that's it. I'm nothing here, and I just sort of knew that I didn't want to stop doing comedy, and specifically, I didn't want to stop performing. Our sketch group had a show at the UCB Theater that we all hosted together, and we sort of would do almost multi-person stand-up. We'd sort of get in front of an audience and just sort of talk to the crowd and talk to each other and get laughs. And I just loved the feeling of getting laughs, right? I knew that I loved that. That it's a very, if you've never experienced it, it's a very, visceral, powerful feeling. People compare it to sex, I think rightly, in that it's extremely, it's this sort of like straight shot of social approval, and, in this way that like, I think us as social animals react to instinctively. And so I just knew that I loved that feeling. And I knew that, since the group broke up, the only way to continue having that feeling in my life was to be performing and to take any performance opportunity that made itself available to me. I spent about a year after the group broke up moping around saying like, I should get booked. People should be booking me on shows, or I should have writing opportunities. Why isn't that coming my way? And then I sort of realized, well, nobody gives a shit about you. Like no one's thinking about you. You can't expect anything in this world. You just have to do the work that's in front of you. So I just started doing open mics. I also started teaching at UCB, teaching sketch comedy writing, because I did have a lot of experience with that. But I had never done stand-up. I had done comedy for a couple of years, but I had never done stand-up up until that time. And I was just like, all right, let me do it. Let me actually do stand-up. And that's the difference between going to an open mic every now and again and doing a show every now and again and doing it every night, right? Like that's how you actually do it, is by doing it every night, or like I said, 7 sets a week. So that was sort of what I told myself was well, if this is the only way I'm gonna get to have that experience I want to have again. And I also had this idea. I remember writing this down in a notebook that like, to get to the good sets, right? To get to the good crowd reactions, you have to go through the bad sets first, right? Like the only way to get to the good shows is to have the bad shows, is to do the open mics. And open mics are very painful. 9 out of 10 of them is a negative experience, and I'd say about 4 out of 10 of them is miserable, because people aren't listening. The sound is bad. It's just not a good time. The 1 out of 10 open mics, actually it's more. I say 3 out of 10 is good, and then 1 out of 10 you actually kill, and you're like, holy shit, that feels incredible. But I knew to get to those wonderful sets, I had to also do the bad ones, but that by doing the bad ones, I would get to the good ones.
And that getting up on stage and having that discomfort sounds really, it sounds really terrifying. But I mean, you already had under your belt a lot of experience doing improv or live shows, and also these videos. Like, what prior experience did you have that gave you the fortitude to have those terrible experiences and still be able to keep getting up there?
It wasn't prior experience. There's nothing that'll prepare you for it. But it was, honestly, it's that it's not that bad. Is the difference. So, I had done comedy with, the guys I was in the sketch group with. I had done that for, 4 or 5 years before that. But like in that case, you've got something else backing you up. You've got you've got other people, you've got a script, right? Stand up, you have nothing else. It's just you, right? You are the only person up there. The only tool that you have is your own voice and body. And everyone is looking directly at you, and your successes and failures are directly manifest, like right there. There's no mediation. The only mediation that you eventually learn is the difference between a good crowd and a bad crowd. You start to learn which rooms you'll never do well in and which ones you will. Like you start to learn what a bad performance setup is, so you blame yourself a little bit less, right? But apart from that, it's all on you. Mm-hmm. And so, the first couple times, usually what happens when people do stand-up is the first time they either bomb or they crush. It's actually sort of weirdly common for people to crush their very first time. And then they think they're really great. And then it's a curse because they bomb the next dozen times after that. Because for some reason, there's like a beginner's luck effect for some reason. After you bomb, after you bomb, 5 times, you realize this can't hurt me. This is not that bad. It's like, it's nerve wracking at first. It certainly is like, dry mouth and like stammering and it feels extremely unnatural because it is a very unnatural thing to do. But you just learn that it's not actually bad. Like it's just standing in front of other people talking, and so, you realize that all the reasons that it's uncomfortable, shame or whatever are all, just mist in the air. Like they're not real problems, right? No one actually cares. When you're at an open mic and you bomb, nobody cares. All that happens is they don't pay attention to you, the challenge, again, in New York, it's all comedians at open mics. And, the challenge is not that they're going to look at you and think like, oh my God, I hate this person or something like that. The thing is, they're never going to look up from their phone, right? Unless you give them a reason to pay attention. So that's challenge one, is just getting people to care about you at all, right? Which means that like at first you have anonymity in a way. The things about it that are difficult are similar to, I don't know, muscle soreness for exercise. Like, of course you're going to have those feelings. It's going to feel bad, but the only way to get strong and good at it is to do it, right? And those feelings sort of repel you. That's part of how you know that you're improving in a way. So once I got over that initial hump, and it is a hump, but I also believe firmly that anyone can get past it if they just do stand up. Again, if anyone is considering doing stand up, just do open mics. Do 3 to 5 open mics a week. That's generous. Do that for 3 months and you'll be a comic. And everything that you think you know about stand-up comedy will have gone out of your head, and you'll have learned almost everything there is to know about it. Or at least you'll have learned 90% of it in those 3 months. You'll have learned about like what the life of it is and what it is to try to do it. You'll have learned that none of the material you pre-wrote is any good and you have to write all new stuff. And you'll also learn that like, oh, it doesn't hurt me that much, and you'll feel yourself get better. And so once I did that, it was just a matter of like keeping up the routine, and it energized itself. It was something that like I was really, I wasn't going to give up for anything because I knew it was really rewarding and making me feel good.
I like what you said about people not caring and realizing that. I haven't done stand-up, but I've just going to, say, an improv class where you're doing your first scene in front of strangers. You feel like you're going to implode or explode or something. And then eventually you learn that it, like you said, these ideas of shame or embarrassment are really just things in the air. And ironically, they're it comes from your own distortion that you're this important, way more important than you are.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody's like saying, "Hey, how's David gonna do?" Like they don't give a shit, right? If they do know you, they'll be pulling for you, right? If your significant other was there, they'd be like, "Oh, you did great," no matter what, right? So, but strangers don't care. So there's really no fear there. The only difference is improv. An improv 101 class is going to be generally very supportive. They have very, very upbeat tones. And the difference with stand-up open mics is they're generally very grim affairs. But you eventually learn you have to make your own fun in those situations. You have to pay attention to the people who are like doing a good job. You have to make friends who are supportive in that space. Make your own sort of fun, make it a good environment for yourself. But stand up is really, if I look back on everything that I do, that I've done, I don't do stand up as much now as I wish I did, because I'm so busy focused on my show. But it really is in many ways, when I started doing it, is really the inflection point in my life that sort of made me who I am.
We're going to take a quick break. I am so thrilled to have Skillshare back as a sponsor of Love Your Work. I know that you will love Skillshare because you are a Love Your Work listener, and Love Your Work listeners love to learn. Skillshare is an online learning platform with over 18,000 classes in business, marketing, entrepreneurship, technology, much, much more. A class that I personally really enjoyed is called Real Productivity, Create Your Ideal Week with Skillshare founder and CEO, Michael Karjanapakorn. And Michael has an impressive command over managing his time and mental energy.
If you look at my calendar, you'll see that it's color-coded. So anything that's in gray are recurring meetings. Anything yellow is a signal that anyone could put a meeting in that time block. Anything in red are like tasks or things I do on a day-by-day basis.
Join the millions of students already on Skillshare today with a special offer just for my listeners. Get 2 months of Skillshare for just 99 cents. 99 cents. You can't buy a decent pen for 99 cents. Anyway, that is right. Skillshare is offering Love Your Work listeners 2 months of unlimited access to over 18,000 classes for just 99 cents. To sign up, go to Skillshare.com/loveyourwork. Again, go to Skillshare.com/loveyourwork to start your 2 months now. So in college, you had this sketch group. I believe it was called Old English, correct? If anybody wants to look online and see those videos. And
we have lots of videos online in old video formats that are kind of hard to watch now, but some of them have made their way to YouTube. But for the ones on our website, you'll need to install QuickTime Player, sadly.
Or Shockwave, yeah.
No Shockwave.
So when you started doing that, though, what was the precursor to starting to make those videos? Or was there any resistance to starting to make those videos?
No, there was no resistance to that. I mean, one of my friends in college started a sketch group, and I wanted to do, I was very, he started it, and I was like, I want to be in that, just like as soon as I heard him that he was doing it, I was like, let me in. I want to write, and make videos and things. We were very lucky to be. This is at Bard College, which was a nice, expensive school that had a bunch of good computer labs. And they had Apple. This is like something that when people accuse me of being a little bit of an Apple fan, which I have been at points in my life, my defense is that it's for this reason. Was that around 2004, 2005, actually, so earlier than that, around 2002, 2003, Apple started embracing DV video, digital video, in a big way, and started putting FireWire cables on its computers, and bought Final Cut Pro and made that work as a modern Mac app. And it suddenly became possible to shoot and edit relatively professional video on professional video cameras on a desktop Mac. And so they had a bunch of that equipment, and so we had everything that we needed to just start making videos. That's what we did. It was really just sort of it's what a college experience is supposed to be, where it was like a, sort of safe space to make, whatever we wanted, with, totally free creativity. And then we started doing, shows for our college and, not a lot of entertainment on the college campus, sort of a captive audience that we knew exactly what headspace all these kids were in. We were able to get a lot of success on the college campus. Then we started, I knew how to code HTML because I had always, been sort of an indoor internet kid who taught myself HTML and CSS and stuff like that. And I was also our main video editor. I taught myself Final Cut. And we started throwing the videos on our website. And at the time, it was about 2003, 2004, when we first started doing this. There was no YouTube, right? YouTube, I think, showed up 2006 or 7. And there was not that much video on the internet, not that much comedy. And so we got a lot of popularity on the internet very quickly because, people would share our videos around. We would go viral. I remember we started, we were hosting our videos on the college's server, which the guy who ran the computer lab called us in to show us how many server requests the server was getting and to demonstrate why we couldn't keep our videos on the web server anymore. And these were 15 megabyte videos. They were these were 320 by 240 videos. But he's like, yeah, you guys can't be serving these from the campus server anymore. And then we bounced around from just remembering this from server company to server company, trying to find some place that could deal with the bandwidth. It was a surprisingly common problem that it's kind of shocking we don't have anymore. Thanks to YouTube and other services like that. Now I just have a DreamHost account that I have my personal website on, and I have unlimited bandwidth for $7 a month, which I would have killed for back in 2005.
So you're making these videos, you're breaking the internet. It's going so well that you decide not to go to grad school. In that moment, as you're making that decision, are you thinking it seems like a lot of people would be resistant to the idea that, I'm going to pursue this comedy thing and something might come of that. Was that a difficult decision to make?
Not particularly. First of all, nobody really was encouraging me to go to grad school. I wanted to, but even my advisor was, I was like, I want to go to grad school, and
you're the only one in your family without a PhD, right? So. Yes,
that's true. I am the only, which is funny, right? I'm the only member of my family without a PhD currently. Yeah, my sister has a PhD in physics, and my dad's a marine biologist, now a vice president at the University of Oregon. But they weren't that encouraging about it. I think, maybe people had a sense that I wasn't cut out for the academic lifestyle. I was really, really interested in the ideas, and I did well in my classes. I was my professors all liked me, and I think they felt I understood the ideas, but I just was never that great with getting the reading done, right? I had a little bit of an ADHD diagnosis, but also an ADHD personality a little bit. And so just nobody was like, you should, people were like, you could. And I was, getting geared up to start applying. And then the group started sort of take off. And then in my year after college, I moved back to the college town to work with the other members of the group who were still in school. It was really just a matter of going towards what was working. We were lucky to have some success early on. So it wasn't that hard of a decision to go with it. It was certainly a little risky, but it was way more exciting than, anything else I could have been doing. Then a year after that, we moved to New York, to do comedy there. And I got a full-time job doing web design, which was, I was very lucky to have, I had health insurance and stuff like that. Not much of a salary, but I did have benefits. I'm just remembering now, I'm trying to remember what the company was. It was called Select Minds, and it was a company that made custom social networks for law firms. I don't know if it still exists. It was very much a 2005 internet company. But I left that job in order to make videos all summer with the guys with no promise of money at the end of that. And so that felt like a little bit more of a risk, right? Because I literally left a secure job in order to we made like one video a day for a whole summer. It really was for a week, but it's still quite a lot, and then we were very lucky because that paid off. We had a video that like when YouTube finally came up, we had a video that went like super viral at the beginning of YouTube, and right after that we went to the U.S. Comedy Arts Festival. So, I was 20. It's the time to do that kind of thing. And I was, and certainly I had a lot of luck and privilege. I mean, my parents were frugal enough to pay my entire way through college. They saved a lot, and on a college professor's salary, which is not amazing, my folks saved enough to send me and my sister to college with no debt by living beneath their means for many years. I came out of college with no debt and with sort of an ability to make decisions like that, which I know not everyone is able to.
But when you were making a decision like that, what did the other people in your life think about that?
My parents were actually supportive of that. I think because they saw that the group was, having some traction, and that it was something that I really cared about and was taking very seriously, and professionally, that I was treating comedy professionally. So, but I did thank them afterwards for being supportive of that. And they were like, yeah, I mean, we pretty much had to be. So, yeah.
So Old English did so well, and then the group breaks up, and you maybe spend a year before you start doing stand-up, it sounds like, where you slowly come to this realization that, this success that I got that just kind of happened is not going to come so easily when I'm on my own. Is that about right?
Yeah. And that it was, I realized that it was a lot of, right time, right place for the group the first time, and that like you have this. So I feel very, very lucky that I had that experience to have in my early 20s, between the age of like 20 and 25, to have had a large amount of success and then a large amount of failure right against each other. Right. It was a really, really great education, because when you have that kind of success right out of college, or that early on, you feel like, this is just destined. Right. Mm-hmm. You're like, I don't really know what I'm doing to make everybody this excited about me, or about our work. Like, we're just writing what we think is funny and putting the videos online. Why do people like it so much? It must be because we're the funniest people who ever lived. We must just be like we're child prodigies, right? We're just amazing at this, right? And then the problem with that attitude is it's actually it puts you in a very insecure place, right? Because as soon as anything doesn't go well, you suddenly think that like the story you've been telling about yourself is wrong, right? Wait, why didn't this thing work? I thought I was a child prodigy. I thought everything I touched turned to gold. Hold on a second. What's actually going on here? And I have friends in comedy who sort of currently have this problem where, they get so much heat early on. And then when they bomb for the first time, or, they're like, what's going on? Like, I thought I was the golden boy, it's men that tend to have this problem. So it's okay to say golden boy. So when the group sort of fell apart, I was sort of back, on the bottom rung of the ladder. I got knocked all the way back down to the bottom. And like I said, I went through a brief period of thinking like, oh, come on, I'm better than this. I should be getting more opportunities. And I realized, no, I just have to start from the bottom and take, every step that presents itself to me and use whatever opportunities I have. And I need to work really hard. And by doing that, that is the way I discovered the more sustainable way to work, right? Where all I'm really worried about is every day I'm going to go to an open mic or go to a show. I'm going to write more. I'm going to do more. I'm going to write more jokes. I'm going to perform well. I'm going to try to meet people who I like. I'm going to try to, be kind to all the people I'm around, right? And build from there. And that really worked. And, honest, and I'll say I've still been in plenty of right places at the right time. I've still been lucky in very many respects. I still have a lot of, privileges that not everyone else has that has allowed me to do that. So I'm not saying, it's, hard work and nothing else. But that approach is a much more stable foundation, because now I know that like if the show that I'm doing now were to disappear and fall apart and I were to be back in the bottom rung of the ladder, well, I know what I'd do. I'd start going to those open mics again. I'd start going to the shows again. I would just go back to writing jokes and like build up from there because, hey, I've done that before. Right. Now I know that there's peaks and valleys in my career in the past, and there's going to be more in the future. And I should prepare myself for, hey, maybe greater levels of success, but also greater, lower levels of failure. Greater levels of failure, you get it. And so that education was really, really invaluable.
What were the things that you were failing at before you came to this realization that, hey, I actually am on the bottom rung of the ladder and I need to put in the work to make something happen?
I mean, we would try to get, like a TV project off the ground. Come on, I should be able to pitch something to Comedy Central. I was just in a successful sketch group. And it's like, well, either you don't get the meeting or you get the meeting and they say, okay, how very nice. We'll talk to you later. And then they never call you back. And you're like, what happened? Like, why am I not able to build on this? I thought I was a bigger deal than this. Right. Like those sorts of failures. That's when you sort of get that little slap from the universe. And it's like, hey, you're not as big as you think you were,
Mm-hmm. And then it sounds like it's almost like you're rolling the dice. You're just rolling the dice a lot of times by going to the stand-up things, and you, as you say, you get lucky, but you can't really get lucky if you're not playing.
Yeah. I'd say so. I don't know that I'd use a dice rolling metaphor, because I think of it more as that process is more of like more building, like I'll give you an example. Because I did stand up for all those years, I'd say I spent about 5 years in New York. This is after my sketch group broke up, just grinding it out, right? Just doing open mics, doing bar shows, right? Teaching at UCB, taking UCB classes, and during that time, I was not paid for comedy, right? And that's a sad truth about the performance world is that, especially in comedy, you've got to do it for free for a long time before, anyone's going to pay you to do it, which is a bummer because it means that a lot of folks who need, to make a living are sort of excluded from doing comedy, which is really a shame. I wish there were a way we had more infrastructure to support more people who want to do it so we would have more voices in comedy. But while I was doing that, you might think of that as, that must have been a rough time. And you're not sure you're making any headway and et cetera. And it did feel like that at the time, but I'm really, really glad that I did that because, now, I know so many people in comedy, I know the head writers and multiple people on the writing staff of every late night show, right? They're all like personal friends of mine from those times, Mm-hmm. And so, I know, Michelle Wolf, right? Whose new show just came out on Netflix and who is terrific, right? Her new show is awesome. We met each other. I met her at her second open mic she ever did. And it was my second week doing open mics, right? And I was just afterwards, I was like, oh, you're really funny. And she was like, oh, thanks. You did great too. And then from then on, we saw each other, just every day at the open mic. So she's a friend of mine, right? And that's what comes from doing it that way, right? Is that like it builds that strong foundation just looking at totally cynically and talking about the way the rest of my career is going to go. That's very important for getting extra work is to have those connections and to know those people, those long build connections.
Mm-hmm. And so your issue with the dice rolling metaphor is that is random and it has nothing to do with skill at all. And what you're talking about is building not just skill, but also these connections and all of that, in addition to this sort of right place, right time thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, oh, hey, I'm hoping every time I'm going to get a hit or anything like that. It's like, no, even the bad sets are worth something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a waste of time. People, and I think that'll make people drop out of stand-up or something else. It's like, I'm just wasting my time. Why would I go to an open mic where there's nothing but comedians there? That's something that people will say. I don't want to go to this open mic. There's nothing but comedians there. There's no audience. It's like, yeah, what are you talking about? You mean the comedians who are your peers in the business? Mm-hmm. The people who the people who could give you work later, the people who, it's like Michelle Wolf did her new Netflix show. She hired all her friends to be writers, all the people she knew from the open mics, all these comics I've known for years, Greg Stone, Dan St. Germain, all these really funny people, because they were the people at the open mics, right? So, and even when you do a bad set, even if there's nobody there worth knowing, you learn something about yourself as a performer. You learn that a joke didn't work, the bad sets, you learn things from too. So, so I just don't think that there's I don't think it's a gamble to go do those things. I think it's just going out and doing the work.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you're saying about getting to know somebody like Michelle early on. I think this is something that you see in a lot of fields where, I don't know, if you're just getting started in something, you feel like you want to go suck up to the people that are really accomplished in this field, when in fact, the peers that are right around you that are at that same level that you're at, building those relationships several years down the road, suddenly you know all these very accomplished people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very insightful way to put it, because I never quite put a finger on why I always avoided, trying to rub elbows with people who are more accomplished than me, and why I'm so disgusted when people do it around me. When I see someone trying to, a young comic trying to sort of suck up to the older comic, or when I notice people trying to do that to me, and now that occasionally happens when I'm at a bar with a bunch of comedians and stuff like that. Is because it's dude, no one's gonna give you anything, no one's gonna give anything to someone they just met who's 15 years younger than them. It never happens. People want to, people give opportunities to the friends who they've known for a long time, the people who they thought were really funny for years, right? You should be sucking up to people of your own age, or people of your own level. Find the people who. The thing is, my philosophy was always I always watched what everyone else was doing, and I said, I'm going to pay attention to who I think is doing it right and who I think is not doing it right, and I'm going to make friends with the people who I think are doing it right, the people who are hardworking, who are reflective about their own process, who are sort of trying to revise how they do things, people who I think are funny, and people who are nice, right? And that's who I'm going to choose, who I'm going to socialize with when we're all having drinks after the open mic, right? And guess what? After doing that, most of my friends are working now. You know what I mean? The people who I chose are the people who now are writers on late night shows, who are writers on sitcoms, who have created their own shows, who are, nationally touring comics, that kind of thing. It just sort of happened. Now, that's not to say that the system works 100% of the time. I know some incredibly funny, talented people who are, did not, make that jump. But at the same time, those other people who didn't make that jump, I'm still looking for man, can I hire them on anything? Because they're still so funny and kind and talented. So, it really works.
Wow. So we're short on time now. I could totally go on forever, but what would you say to kind of summarize the conversation today, your sort of final message to people who want to be like you, and be like you in the sense that they find this thing that is uniquely theirs and they're able to bring it into the world and have success with it? How would you summarize our conversation today?
Sure. Well, I'd tell people to take their eyes off of the end of the rainbow, right? When people say how do I get to have a TV show like yours? I would say, well, stop thinking about the TV show, right? Stop thinking about me as the end point of where you want to be, which is kind of wild to say that about myself, that I would be that way for people, but because just a couple of years ago I was, the positions were reversed. But take your eyes off of that and just put your eyes on your own feet and say, what can I go out and do today, right? The thing that helped me, that I liked the most about stand-up, was before starting doing stand-up, I would sit at home and go how can I write on a TV show one day? Should I write a spec script? That kind of thing, which is the thing that people do. But, I want to write on SNL. How do I get that job? What do I need to do? When I started doing stand-up, what I had to do was leave my house, right? That was the first step. was like, open the door, start walking, and go to the bar, right? Where the open mic was. Open mics are usually in bars. So it was just the matter of like, you know, taking the step to go out and do it every day. That was the most important part, you know? And then on the way there, I had to write some material and try to do some jokes and do all those other things. But like, that was like the basic work, you know? And it was active, and it was something that I could feel improving myself every day. So find something to do like that. Like, focus on what can you be doing every day to, you know, to make yourself better at the thing you want to be doing, right? I think people have way too much goal-oriented thinking about like, you hear all the self-help stuff like envision where you want to be and then figure out the steps to get there. Well, guess what? That's not possible, right? So like, plan out a perfect plan that's going to get you to exactly what you want. I wouldn't have been able to, like 10 years ago, conceive of the show I'm doing right now. That would be impossible because I didn't yet have the tools I needed to know what kind of show would do well, right? It's a total fantasy to think that you can like predict what kind of thing you're going to have success with, because one of the things you need to do is to figure out what is going to be a success for you, right? So instead, it was like more focusing on what step can I take in the right direction every single day, you know? That would be my big advice.
And that is great advice. Where would you like for people to get more of you?
I mean, I post stuff all the time on my website, adamconover.net, and Adam Conover on Twitter too. But hey, I'm trying to get off social media because I don't like, I'd like to own my own following, please. So, instead follow me at adamconover.net. Sign up for my mailing list there.
Sounds great. Adam Conover, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation. I think it's going to be very helpful to a lot of people, including myself. So thank you so much for taking the time.
No problem. Thank you so much, David.
Is Love Your Work helping you find the intersection on your love and money Venn diagram? Does it bring you the inspiration and motivation to make you into the person that you want to be? If so, we, together, you and I, can make this the show that we want it to be. I'm trying to make a nourishing and thoughtful show, and I could use your help with that. Please donate to the show. Just a coffee a month will help support the hosting and production of this show. Just a coffee a month will help spread Love Your Work's message, helping more people live a balanced life with a healthy definition of success. To donate, visit our Patreon page at cadavy.net/donate. Patreon is a platform that lets you support creators like me, vote with your dollars, and keep Love Your Work going at cadavy.net/donate. As a thank you, you'll get early access, bonus content, and a discount on Love Your Work merchandise. Learn more at cadavy.net/donate. That's cadavy.net/donate. Love Your Work is brought to you in part by our Patreon supporters, such as mini sponsor Roxana Maynard of Agility Alchemist at agilityalchemist.com, and top supporters such as Arif Akhtar and Jeffrey Mason. This has been Love Your Work, and I'm David Cadavy. The theme music for this show is At Sea by Dorena from the album About Everything and More, by arrangement with Deep Elm Records at deepelm.com. Love Your Work is a production of Cadavy, Inc.